in the world of professional wrestling, it's definitely been an interesting week. In the WWE, they're currently getting the gears in motion for Survivor Series, and it actually looks like they're going to have some really good stuff going on. We've already had SmackDown invading Raw, GMs facing off against each other in the ring. It's been interesting stuff. But unfortunately, we're not going to be talking about that today. No. We're going to be talking about a video that I actually took down because I got my sources wrong. And of course, I'm talking about Jeff Jarrett, TNA, and Global Force Wrestling. So, I'm not going to recap exactly like the what and the why, but basically when I took the video down, I got my sources incorrect, and I really want to make sure that what I'm putting up here, at least the basis of it, is 100% factual, and my opinion just stays as my opinion. Well, let's get into the real. As it turns out, TNA it just split ways with Global Force Wrestling and Jeff Jarrett. It really didn't get into too many specifics about it, just that it was their time to do business their way, and that they were not happy with how things were being ran with Jarrett and company over at Global Force. And that right there, that's fine. Anyone who follows TNA lately knew that after their last Slammiversary pay-per-view, which I actually heard was a decent show, that was the show that unified all the belts, and then Global Force absolved TNA into their company, or absorbed, I guess would be absolved. It absolved it of all of its sin, but it absorbed it entirely, and then Impact was now beyond Global Force Wrestling. I believe that was a couple months ago, so within less than half of a calendar year, the company has already decided that this is not going to work out in their favor. TNA, I gotta tell you, they're like the cat with 9 lives, and I really do think that their time is coming up. First, it was trying to get the show off the ground in 2002, and then when Jeff had to borrow money from Dixie's father in order to keep, it was either Dixie's father or his own stepfather. I wouldn't be surprised if it was both, because he was leveraging money from as many people as he could, because he didn't have enough of his own assets in order to get the company off the ground in '02. There was that. There was, of course, the huge issues that were going on behind the screen. Hulk Hogan coming on the set, I heard, was a huge divide within the company. That's my daughter, if you can hear her in the background. Hulk Hogan coming in really... It changed the company, and for the worse. It became like, it was like watching a retirement home wrestle every single week almost. And then there became the financial issues, the morale issues, and then Hulk leaving the company was somewhat of a shining light. And then there was the controversy with Jeff and Karen Angle, which had Jeff go home, and then Vince Russo getting back on the writing team, which resulted in a lot of creative writers and agents and bookers losing their jobs, because Vince Russo loves to stir up that drama, and he loves to get rid of people who don't agree with his masterful plans. And then there was, again, the more financial problems. People were leaving the show left and right to go back to Ring of Honor and New Japan. And then there was Billy Corgan coming in and being an investor, and then there was the lawsuit from Corgan, and then the restraining order, and oh my God, it was ridiculous. I personally do think if TNA were to rebrand their Impact again, I don't give them much time. I don't give them a whole lot of time. I don't think they have what it takes to stay on their legs. Mainly because a lot of their great talent is in other companies now. I'm not saying they don't have decent talent, but let's be honest, when one of their main acts, the Hardys, is no longer with them, and that was one of the main reasons people were still watching the show, that's not a good sign. And everyone else they've lost over the years too. They lost Joe, they lost Styles, and before you know it, I'm pretty sure anyone else on that roster can get picked up by WWE at any given moment. Because right now, WWE is like the pure breeding ground for developing these talents in NXT and then bring them up to the main roster. You can agree or disagree with me on this as much as you want, but the fact still remains that TNA is a shell of what it was like even 10 years ago when they had the people, the potential, and the staying power. It's nothing like that now. So why am I bringing it up? Well, because it kind of correlates to something I was shown yesterday. She's going crazy. It was a video that took place, I believe, in RCW, a Canadian local wrestling show, in which Jeff Jarrett was hired to do an appearance for. And allegedly he was intoxicated. And the promoter I believe the owner of the business went on record as to stating that they canceled his next show, which I believe was that Saturday, because he was intoxicated, and they just wanted to distance themselves from it from obvious reasons. To which Jarrett's only reply was that they were a bunch of amateurs. Now, I'm going to let something be known that's probably not a secret to a few of you. I'm not a huge Jeff Jarrett fan. I kind of liked his heel persona in WWE. I hated his face run in the mid to late 90s. I think he is an average wrestler at best. On his great days, he could probably have a B match. I did not like him in WCW whatsoever. I felt like with Vince Russo behind him the entire time, it was next to impossible to get a taste of something else. His mic skills were okay, but that was because, again, if he felt very loose and unscripted, and I'll give him that. I was not a fan of him in TNA, except for some of the story angles involving him, which he wasn't directly involved. He was just an extra member who got added in. That I did kind of like. But as it went on, we kind of saw Jeff Jarrett for who he really was. Now, again, people are going to agree to disagree, and feel free to do the same, but I'm just going to call it as I see it. The man is an opportunist. He's borrowed money from his father-in-law to get Global Force off the ground. He went and consulted Dixie Carter and her father to invest in TNA. He's an opportunist. I don't know how much of that man's personal money he has had invested in anything, but given the fact that he has hoarded himself out to just nearly any local baseball stadium that will allow them to put up a 6-sided ring to entertain a crowd of a couple hundred people. We're talking about a guy who was originally invested in a multi-million-dollar company. And I'm not even going to get into his stupid little inside schemes where he would either sell his own merchandise or he would, try to, promote a gold selling and buying pyramid scheme company. That was hilarious. But to the point now where he's showing up at local shows drunk. And I saw the video. At first I couldn't really tell because the volume was really, really low. Which will happen if someone takes a cell phone camera at these wrestling shows. It's next to impossible to get good audio only because of how the sound echoes in the room. But I'm watching Jeff's promo. It was very mediocre. It was pretty much just get in the ring. There was no flair to it almost whatsoever. The crowd did a lot of the work for him because he was your typical babyface promo. He's trying to get the crowd to rally behind him. And then they got in the ring with the other guy. A lot of walk and brawl around the ring to start. A lot of walk and brawl. And then when it came time to doing the moves, Jeff botched several of them almost immediately. Now, I'll give Jeff Jarrett this. Yeah, I think he can have an average wrestling match at best, but he's never really been one to botch moves like this, ever. So it kind of makes you wonder, what the hell is going on with Jeff Jarrett? And does this have anything to do with the TNA split? I think it might have. I think a lot of his personal demons are finally catching up to him. Whether it be, issues with his previous marriage, and which led into his current marriage, his issues probably with WWE now and all the talent that he lost to them, his financial troubles. It's all ringing a bell, and right now it's still very murky to see what the clear picture is, but I think we can all agree that right now it's not looking good for either of these companies right now. TNA maybe on their own has a chance to possibly redo their own thing, but that's only if the company's owners wish to reinvest, which right now we don't know. As far as Global Force goes, Jeff Jarrett, this drunken appearance does not sit well with his image, and it doesn't sit well with his fans. So I'm kind of really reluctant to see what's going to be happening over the next few days. I wouldn't be surprised that within the next year we're going to be hearing bad news from probably both of these companies. I definitely hope not. I do encourage competition. I wish wrestling were like it was back in the 80s prior, where there were multiple territories and companies and everyone can have a different taste of what they wanted. I think competition is very healthy, but if you're going to be whoring yourself up for a product, which Jeff was, he showed up in Global Force wrestling gear, promoting the show while he was drunk, you can't carry yourself like that and expect to get premium results. And I think this is either going to be Jeff's wake-up call or it's going to be his curtain call. Either way, this looks like it could be the beginning of the end, and it might be time for him to get out of the business entirely. He's exploited the business for personal gain. He's borrowed money from numerous people. I'm not going to get into his business practices involving how he tried to poach talent, including personnel from the company. A lot of that being Vince's fault too. But the fact still remains is that this is not a good time right now for any of these companies, and I really do think this drunken appearance is a prelude to something much, much bigger. So, if I were you, I'd stay tuned to what's going on in the world of Global Force and Jeff Jarrett. I think we're going to be hearing some more stuff over the next month or so, maybe over the next several months. But as far as right now, it's not looking good, and you could probably expect to see a lot more of these talents getting picked up by Ring of Honor, New Japan, or even WWE. So that's going to do it for now, and the less I have to see of Jeff Jarrett, the better.